Today I'm doing something I have been wanting to do for such a long time, and that is finishing a quilt that my grandma started. I have had this quilt laying around in my piles of fabric that I inherited from her for about 2 years now, and I have repeatedly gone back to it, thought about what I could do with it. And now today is the day where I am planning on starting to finish this quilt. I don't know if I'll get everything done today because quilting is a long process, but I'm so excited to finally do this. Let me show you the quilt. So this is what it looks like. I'll have to measure how big this actually is. It is not a full-size quilt that you can lay on your bed, but since I am expecting a baby, I will be making a baby blanket out of this. This would not have been colors that I choose. I think I wouldn't naturally go for something this vibrant, but it suits my grandma so well, and I think she chose pretty modern patterns, so I think this will make for a really beautiful baby quilt. So I decided to look into what type of backing I'm going to use for this quilt, and I have two options and I'm not sure what I'm going to do. So the first option is a more muted option. It is this pinkish fabric, and this pink can be found in this circle-y type of pattern, so it would be something that kind of is coherent with the quilt top. Let me show you my second option, and that one is a lot more vibrant. This is what it looks like. I picked this fabric up from IKEA with this quilt backing in mind. It is their, I can show you, Flugblomster fabric, and it was quite inexpensive. It is a canvas fabric, so it is quite a bit thicker than the quilt top, which would make it great to also lay down on the floor, I think. Of course, this quilt backing has the same color as the red patches. The red patches also have some pink in it, so I think that this would also be cute, but of course a lot more catchy than the light pink. So this is what the three fabrics look like in daylight. So I think I decided on the more vibrant color combination. I am making this quilt with my grandma in mind, and I think she would have loved this pairing. So I'm gonna do it this way. I did order a quilt lining, so let's unpack it. It came in the mail a week ago. This is it. So as you can see, I chose quilt batting that has wool in it. I decided between a woolen and a polyester one, and first of all, the woolen or the woolly one was thicker, which means there will be more padding on the baby blanket for laying it on the floor, and also it is more temperature regulating than a polyester quilt batting. I might have gotten a little bit too much quilt batting for a 1 meter by 1 meter quilt, but oh well. also, I'm not a very perfectionist quilter, which I think inherently makes me a bad quilter. So we're now in the room where I sew, and what I have just done is I have secured all of the layers from my quilt together. So I took some quilting thread and just wove along the quilt in order to kind of baste, I think that's what it's called, the 2 layers of batting. I decided to double up together with the back and the front. And we now have this big quilt sandwich that I'm now gonna start on quilting. And you could do this step with some safety pins and just secure the 3 layers together with the safety pins. But this is the way I was taught how to do it, and I really like the process of it, putting the 3 layers together. And I will not be hand quilting this, I will just quilt on my sewing machine. So we'll see how it turns out. This takes longer than I thought, and it's also much harder than I thought. All of my previous quilts, I have quilted just lines that kind of go with the pattern on the front, and that would have been the easy way to do this. But I chose a different way to do it, and I decided to trace the kind of floral or botanical pattern on the back, which is cool because I have something to follow, so I don't have to think about what pattern I'm gonna do, but it's also much more work. So this is what it now looks like quilted. As you can see, I decided to go for this more organic quilting shape, which I think matches the leafy details of the fabric really well. And I roughly followed the lines on the back here so that it looks cool on the back as well, because I kind of followed these vines.
Strips cut, what I do is I head over to the iron and I iron them in half, and I iron them before I sew them. And the reason I do that is because when you're dealing with fabrics that are solids, it's hard to tell the front from the back. And sometimes when I sew them together, I have a seam going this way and a seam going this way, and it just gets crazy. So this eliminates that problem. And I'm going to sew diagonally from this line to this line. I'm not going to draw it, I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to set my presser foot right here, and I'm going to sew across to here, because that will give me
this last summer, so I also thought it was kind of like a so generally simple things sweater.
So I'm now done with the quilt and I want to show you what it looks like. This is it. This is the back. I'm in love. I love the way the kind of organic quilting looks. I think it matches the fabric so well. And I have to say, in the beginning of this vlog, I think I said that I wouldn't have picked out these colors myself. While quilting this and putting the back on, I really have fallen in love with the print that my grandma picked out, especially this part that has all of these pastels in it. Now I'm really in love with it. It's not perfect, but anyone who has done a quilt before will know that it takes a pretty experienced crafter, sewist, and quilter to make a perfect quilt. But I'm still learning and I'm happy with the outcome. I'm also happy with the way the quilting looks on the back. I did follow the lines of the pattern more or less, and that makes the back of the quilt look kind of put together as well, I think.